Om Hari Om Tat Sat. We return to the second half of the first class on the soul bound is man, that same soul free is God. It's Ramakrishna's great little Mahavakya there, or Vedantic koan if you want to call it that, which I decided to use as the title of this class. The title of this class. And with a little bit of technical difficulties here, which we will edit out later maybe, but for now it happens. That's not a cosmic bondage, but you might find it somewhere in here. Mic not working, truth getting interrupted. So we're talking about avidya. It's the first of the 5 classes of yoga, right? So that's got to tell you how important it is in the minds of the rishis from ancient times all the way up to Father of Yoga, who isn't that ancient by Indian standards of time. 140 AD possibly. They have a hard time determining that. But these are all banded together in one bubble of 1/5 of a kind of bondage overall, connected to 2 kinds of desires. And this, we're really pretty much looking at desire for the worlds right now. When we say assumption of individuality, I want to have my separate existence, please, I'll take that, and that's all, that's who I am, and everything else is shut out. And then I will engage in mental projection. Remember the Sanskrit words sankalpa. And if desire is particularly involved, vikalpa, sankalpa, vikalpa, both all go back to the ancient Indians, even back to the Gita and Sri Krishna for teachings on that. Then we covered those. So the third is maintenance of a separate existence, sort of like, you know, the 5 complacencies for seeking wealth, getting wealth, guarding wealth, enjoying wealth, and losing wealth. It's the same really with your separate existence. You want to maintain it, you want to keep it, pretty soon you're attached to it, you don't want to let it go. Death comes, and you have to give it up. You probably have had to give it up hundreds of times, because lifetimes are happening in your mind, not in the worlds. So that's why you can go back in time, as science figures it out, and only find enough time for a certain amount of lifetimes. So they're talking about thousands of lifetimes. If you call them dreams, dream bubbles in consciousness, the egos are like bubbles rising in the ocean of awareness, right? And they've got this lining, and they've got nothing but air inside of it. In some cases, with prideful people, hot air, as they say, and you know those are bursting somewhere along the route of their rising. Maybe some get all the way to the top and get released into the all-pervasive ether, as you could say metaphorically, but basically that's how to maintain this separate existence, and bubbles want to become bubbles again. Sri Ramakrishna actually used to say that. When you see a group of bubbles, there's 1 or 2 big bubbles, and then a bunch of little bubbles attached to them. The big bubbles are the father and the mother, and the little ones are the children. And so he would actually talk about human souls as being empty like that, human beings. That is their body-mind mechanisms. So that becomes a habit and a desire, you know, for bodies. Like here, deha anuvartanam. It's one of those things that I've got to create a space for myself. And that's only done rightly, according to Swami Vivekananda, if you can do so in full awareness. So knowing where you're going, who you are, you know, what you're going to accomplish in there, that you're going to have to give it up eventually, and that the whole thing was a dream when you did it, would be the dreamer knowing the dream. "O dreamer, awake, you must," is a great song in India, one of the lines of a song. To keep going so we can finish this chart in this half is my intention. Pretense of personal agency. So there you have pretty much what you've mentioned there is the mind, its power of projection, and now the ego. So these are components of the antaha karana, right? Fourfold mind. And in high school I was always wondering, where's the will? What's my mind? What's the intellect? What's the ego? Where are these? And all of a sudden they had the Indian philosophy, like these were all like iron filings floating in my untrained mind in the West, in schools, and so forth. All of a sudden, there it was. Oh, I see. One of the best systems ever. And maybe the only system that describes the mind. Where the willpower is, where the prana is, where the psychic prana is, where the worlds are, where the ego is that enjoys the worlds, and where the wisdom is that I can destroy the worlds with, that I created. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Nothing's going to persist beyond the self. We were just reading it, right? Adoration to myself. That one sloka I read in here, adoration to the self, if you go back just a few pages, a few slokas, for a long time, the first lines are, wonderful am I, adoration to myself, 2:11. Wonderful am I, adoration to myself, who though with a body am always one, 2:12. 2:13. Wonderful am I, adoration to myself, there is none so capable as I, 2:13. 2:14. Wonderful am I, adoration to myself, who have nothing, and so forth. So slokas in a row in the Ashtavakra Samhita are worshipping the self. Thou art the darling of your own worship, is how Tantra puts that. When you find out who you are, there's nowhere to face to find divinity except yourself. You are that. That thou art. However you want to put that. So imagine the bliss of knowing that. The bliss of certitude around it. That fear and doubt and so forth are just not in the picture. What to speak of bondage and liberation? Enforcement of the unreal, denial of the real. Oops, did I read that right? It's like, I think there's a typo in my chart, which drives me crazy. But no, that's the way avidya and loka anuvartanam works. It's got to enforce the unreal, because the real wouldn't allow a world if you knew it. It's only ignorance that creates worlds of time and space and separate existences, when none of that is. The self is all in all, none else exists, he says again and again, and thou art that. So, being real clear about the projecting powers of the mind, what does it lead to? How about mindfulness? You see, they're calling it different things nowadays, on Zen retreat, in Zazen and all that you go very carefully to the kitchen, pick up your bowl very carefully, eat a grain of rice, with your chopsticks very carefully, and the whole thing is just like, well, this is teaching me what? To slow down? Yeah, maybe that's a good start, but that Busho is in everything, that Buddha nature is in everything, and that especially in me. I am that. So that comes closer to us on retreat, doesn't it? We feel that more, and we feel that more when we're with our teachers. And to hold that, to keep the torch burning after the fact of these different fortunate darshanas you had with your teacher. I remember standing outside the ashram in Portland, Oregon, waiting for the bus at a bus stop, and I could look up and see the window of my teacher's room in that Vedanta center. And so I would just go like this, and tears would be in my eyes, just thanking my lucky stars that right across the river where I was born, there was a great soul. Right across the Willamette River. And I had beamed down somehow into my own mother's womb and my own family, 5 miles away from him. I think I looked back on it the other day, it's like 2 years. He was there 2 years before I was born. So he was on the scene first, for souls like myself. for arrogant Americans, as he used to say. Come there and teach them how to get rid of this pretense of personal agency, right? I am the self. You see, I am the ego. No, you're the real self. You're the Atman. So it will enforce everything that's unreal and make it seem real. We know what that's about. Then belief in time, matter, and evolution comes along. This is, if it's not there in a society like India, then it can grow, even to an age like this, where people are beginning to think of that. And see, what is yoga? Oh, it's doing a bunch of physical exercises, eating some spicy foods, and dancing and singing or something, some sort of pretense of bhakti. Yeah. This is how Vivekananda described his own country in this day and age, and what it's becoming more and more. And when yoga is really not a lifestyle, it's a life stance. You shouldn't turn yoga into a lifestyle. It's a life stance. You don't do yoga. You are yoga. You're in yoga. And if you're not, it's the soul bound as man. Never think that way. Vedantists won't think that way. Belief in time, matter, and evolution. So there it is, basically. It's like saying matter, energy, and thought, kind of, in Svetashvatar's way of saying. That is, you shouldn't believe in those as being the ultimate truth of the matter. Those come along as a add-on, right? And the yogi or the illumined soul will know them to be an add-on, therefore can live them. He doesn't have to thirst for life forever quench. He's enjoying everything exquisitely because he's not those things that change and pass. Everyone else is into the things that change and pass, so their enjoyment comes with suffering. And their death comes with fear. And their life comes with confusion. And their birth comes with ignorance. Avidya it's called, right? And then might as well go on to the 6 transformations. Buddhism, Vedanta hold these in common. Acceptance of birth, growth, and death. Add in decay and life and growth, and you've pretty much got the 6 transformations there. Went through that painlessly, I hope, as painlessly as ignorance can be spoken of. Let's go on to 2, so we make headway. So now this is where it really connects in with desire for the body, whereas this one was more desire for worlds. Not that these have any specific order. You can arrange them as you see fit, because it would have, this would come first if you were twice born, like a priest. They call them in India twice born. That would probably be the way you cruise in with the ancestors. But if you're just if your last lifetime was an animal, if such things are possible, like they say it is, then you're probably cruising in on root ignorance, or just for the body alone. So what is the body? Body orientation is like, that's myself. First evolute of Maya, 16 evolutes of Maya, is I am, the self is the body and the body is the self. So here, these cosmic bondages of Vedas and Vedanta are following that. Then there's the pursuit of sensuality. In my recent God blog, I put a big, huge turtle, with a big mouthful of grass, and its head and its eyes looking like real dull. You see, the thing was all about the dinosaurs having their head, to the ground. You saw that one. And so, since you look at ground, you eat ground. Everything is ground, everything is earth, you become that, and they become fossil fuels. So what you look at, what you eat, you become. So how you eat it, so forth. So there are teachings in our tradition that are designed to take gross elements out of gross things and turn them subtle, like poison into nectar, like Lord Shiva is so masterful at doing. So, pursuit of sensuality, of course we could go on and on about that. It could become, something that the fire-darting reformers. That's it. You see, Vivekananda came and saw people here in the West who were Christian religion. Oh, those are the fire-darting reformers, he called them. See, everything's a sin to them, and you got to be very, very careful anything you do. Well, that's anything sensual you do. But I was just reading here today that the enlightened soul enjoys eating, drinking, sleeping, feeling, touching. The illumined soul enjoys those things. And so now I understand why Vivekananda said the yogi enjoys things intensely. It's not, he gave them away, he renounced them because they weren't real. But now he doesn't have anything in the way of just experience them as they are. And that's called samadhi of objects by the father of yoga. If you're taking those yoga lessons from me in the emails, hint, hint, then you're finding out more and more about the sampragata samadhis, the knowledge samadhis starting with objects. And so now you're figuring it out. You see, it's not a fire-darting reformer thing. It's not a slap-the-hand thing. It's if you're a householder, renounce everything outwardly and enjoy it inwardly, where there's no poison left in it. It's learning how to take the poison out of the snake so you can play with it. And even the play is a dream. So you're not like pulling any punches on yourself, you see, or fooling yourself about it, like people would be if they actually did try and enjoy the objects as if they were real. Enjoy the worlds as if they were real. Have desires as if they would satisfy themselves, you see. Or enter into rituals and ceremonies as if that was like the main thing in life. When worshipping the self is the main thing. So then, now it's getting rich, you see. Craving for vital force is one of the things that I've mentioned a lot, that the ancestors, they want bodies, yes, they want worlds, but how can those things be if you don't have a channel, right, a nadi, to which to flow to them through? And that's what the prana is. It's a great Garuda bird that carries souls to their destinations. It's an energy that's not kinetic or electric, although those things certainly are powerful and be smack of it, you see. But basically it's this inward energy that beings are getting born right there at the third chakra in. This is a very overpopulated chakra here, right there at the gut, where food's digested and water and the womb, the fetus is formed in the womb and so forth. This is like almost incomprehensible. If the Atman is incomprehensible in another way, but even coming to know the mass of souls that are experiencing that first bubble, how many believe in the assumption of individuality? How many are engaging in mental projection? How many want to maintain a separate existence in an unreal world, like living in a dream? Oh, I see a cloud castle in the sky. I'm going there and living, for a long time. You know who they call that? Who lives there? The gods. The gods live in cloud castles in the sky of their own mind for 4,000 divine years. See? One divine year is like many lifetimes here, but 4,000 divine years, you can imagine how long the gods would live in this self-constructed projection. And other souls under their guidance, you see, that believe in that same world, like all of us right here. If we all believe that this is real, then we're a pack of fools. We're all bozos on this bus, as they used to say in the 60s. Like you get into a bus full of clowns. You've got a red nose and green hair. And, so and all the other clowns say, come aboard, we're all bozos on this bus. So that's what happens when you believe in the reality of a world, and in the reality of your family, and in the reality of your ancestors. And you've got pictures of them on the wall, and you're not offering incense and flowers to them, unless you're a Shinto religion. You're just having them as memories. You don't even know that they still exist. Oh, they're dead, you say. They're not dead. They were never born. You're missing the whole point all the time. And the Advaita is there to clarify this for you. And maybe even the Advaita will take you beyond it, but at least the Dharma is there to clarify this for you. So craving for vital force, don't get me started, but just know that we don't know anything about prana in this day and age. Not even India knows much. Everybody's associating it to a few breathing exercises, like somehow my lungs can enlighten me. Turn them into a pair of bellows, exercise them a little bit, and all of a sudden I'm dizzy, and I call it samadhi or something. See, prana is a very, very powerful thing. It's the most powerful substance in the three worlds, other than truth. But in that way, truth is not really a substance. It's all-pervasive verity. And prana flows along it. Vishnu rides the Garuda. So he's got a powerful prana, see, that's all-pervasive, like his Atman. So craving for vital force, is different than communing with vital force, or connecting with vital force, connecting it to your consciousness. More about that if you look back on a few months ago when we were having the classes on prana, tanmatras, and psychic prana. You can look back on those. Desire for the powers of the mind. Mostly those are Astabhalasiddhas, the 8 occult powers. And there are some teachers, I'd say spurious, questionable, metaphysically questionable, that they're telling people to go after those. But all the great souls are warning you against them, from Krishna to Ramakrishna. They're warning you against those. And still, you're not waking up to the fact that that connects into this other bubble with your ancestors. Desires and bodies are all having to do with prana and having to do with powers, lower powers. What about the 6 great powers of the Godhead and the powers of the Atman? What about those? Why are you overlooking those for a bunch of crow droppings by the side of the road? That's what Sri Ramakrishna, God Blog Time, that's what Sri Ramakrishna told us about. Oh, the occult powers, they came to me when I was meditating, but I never used them. I saw them as crow droppings along the side of the road. So why would you look at those even? Where's the road leading to? Crow droppings? It's leading to the Atman. And you are that Atman on that same road that it's leading to, remembering yourself. So powers of the mind, attachment to form, and the word is linga. See, it's a very powerful word with many meanings in Sanskrit. There's the Shiva Lingam, for instance, and then there's alinga, formlessness in yoga. All the things that are leading up to it, senses, the elements, the senses, the mind, these have markings. You see, they have markings in Maya, so they're called linga. But as soon as you get to undifferentiated consciousness, they call that, alinga. Father goes, oh no, that doesn't have any markings. This is how he describes it without even being philosophically. With markings, without markings. Linga and alinga. So it's very clear to you. It's sort of like Vedanta saying real and unreal. Seeking pleasure for the ego self, and falsely assuming the sheaths to be God. The Atman puts on those coverings. If I had more time, I'd read this, but I'll maybe save it for next week, that question that Tara asks of Sri Ram, because Sri Ramachandra's birthday was on Wednesday. We all just sang some beautiful songs about it, so we don't forget. Sri Ramachandra Kripalu Vajamana Harana Bhavabhaya Darunam. Sri Ramachandra Kripalu Bhavabhaya Karana Bhavabhaya Darunam. Nava Kancha Lochana, Kancha Mukakara, Kancha Tara Barunam. Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ramachandra Shri Palu, Bhajamana Harana Bhava Bhayadarunam. So we pay our due respects to the great avatar of the Treta Yuga, Sri Ramchandra. Let's look at 3 across the board. Pramachadika, interesting Sanskrit word, attachment to nature. Nature, pretty hard, pretty hard not to give that its own existence. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact the teaching is that all nature comes from mental projection from inside of you, forms, names, everything, rivers, valleys, worlds, all came from the mental projection. If we didn't have that piece of the puzzle punched in, then we'd be dualists. Say, yeah, there's a soul and there's nature. That's basically what dualistic thinking is about. They're both realities. They have separate realities. There's no connection between them. Man will always be man, and nature will always be nature. Therefore, man can never be God, you see. So there's these advantages to qualified non-dualism, and then qualified non-dualism, and then non-dualism, which help you to see the seeds in unmanifested nature. We don't know anything about that. So, tanmatras, zip. Prana, zip. Psychic prana, zip. And then here, unmanifested prakriti, zip. Some of the four of the main tenets in Samkhya, Yoga, Vedanta, Jainism, and so forth, Shaivism, gone from our understanding. We're bereft of them. We don't even know, what are you talking about, unmanifested nature? Because we only believe in matter. Those have to be plugged back in with nadis. You have to open the trail back up into the bamboo forest. That trail you blazed a few lifetimes ago, if you didn't keep blazing it, if you didn't keep that machete with you lifetime to lifetime, then you're going to have to go back, you see, and cut down that undergrowth. At least you can still see, hopefully, where the trail was, because some things are shorter than others, you see. You dealt with them before. But if you didn't keep it up, that discriminating process in your physical rebirth, and did your practice and kept seeking earnestly towards what's beyond bondage and liberation, at least trying to see through bondage and realize the true nature of the soul, then you would have to be going back and reblazing these trails all the time, opening these nadis. This is to do it on, the individuals mixed in here, but these are cosmic bondages. This is really talking about billions and billions of souls who think themselves to be individuals in separate worlds. Just one stroke of the Vedantic sword, that can all go away. That can all go away. Meet the right teacher at the right time, with holy company in the right lifetime. That's gone. I don't know why I kept it up all this time. It's called waking up from a dream. That's serious business. So, what is this attachment to nature? Dalliance with the 3 gunas. You need another couple classes for that, but basically tamas, rajas, and sattva, the inertia, and then frenetic activity and balance, if you want to put it more scientifically. But in the mind, not just in nature. Sure, we can observe nature and say, oh, that's just sitting there forever. A mountain or, a turtle. See, oh, that's but it's not much going on there in that bit of existence. Or, wow, everything's going on like, a bunch of water skippers on the lake. You ever seen those things? So you're trying to swim and they all come up to you. That's like frenetic activity. And then all of a sudden you see some balance. See, I mean, you can even see balance in a cow grazing. See, that's not necessarily tamas there. I mean, at a deep level it is, attachment to nature. But it's like, you know, a dog sitting in the sun, you know, regally, you know, like your Irish setter. See, whereas before it was running around, defiling everything. And before that it was sleeping with its tongue out and flies crawling on its snout. You see, now it's like, so you can see those gunas in everything. And for human beings, that's, you know, what they call modes, we call moods in this day and time. Oh, I'm in this mood, I'm in that mood, and our moods change. And they can be volatile, or, you know, but they're always changing. But in the teaching with the gunas, they're modes of nature. They're not, like Sri Krishna said here, you know, everything happens in nature, not in the soul. So if you're identified with nature, which is this is what this is, attachment to nature, then you're identifying with the gunas of nature, sure as anything, sure as can be. And you know, you want to not have that dalliance anymore. You want to have the transcendence of the gunas. You want to get behind even balance. Then you then taking refuge in the physical world, of course, it's been provided for you. Your desires want that. So now it's not just one lifetime and I'm out of here. It's like, I think I like that, even with all the suffering. Or maybe I forgot the suffering and I remembered the pleasures and I want to come back for some more of that. I forgot that my team lost the Super Bowl and it plunged me into years of depression. Talk about bozos on a bus. You know, there's so many more important things here going on, folks. So they take refuge in physical worlds over lifetimes. And, you know, that's nature. It's pretty much providing. So it's very hard to separate, to not call nature a separate existence. It's just got its own functionings. But that one piece to connect it to thought hasn't been done yet. Oh, the object is just a thought. You know, it's mind made manifest. Holy Mother told us just 100 years ago. It's thought made concretized. So you're not like you're sitting on your own mind. You're living in your own mind. You're flying around the world of your own mind in a plane. And the plane's in your mind too. It's not like you know, you're in nature. It's really that nature's in you. And you know, again, a little flip of the switch there, and you see the truth, and oh, I think I'll quit dreaming now. I think I'll get attached to the soul, not to nature. Because everything is in the soul, in a good way. Fascination with the beauty of nature. It has to be thrown in there, because there's a lot of horror in nature. And the world has been experiencing a lot of that. I mean, diseases are in nature, and there's COVID right now. And that'll pass. Another phenomena will come and take its place. Some 30 years ago, it was the tidal waves in Japan, the devastation there, and before that, all sorts of phenomenal things and sensational things happening that, see, you've almost forgotten about them. What was that? Oh yeah, now I remember that. How a huge steamliner got dumped on a Japanese village. That was big news when it's, but now it's like, oh, I don't remember that anymore. So basically, it's the coming and going, the constant arising and falling of things, which is the teaching of Tibetan Buddhism and Buddhism in general. Paticca samutpata, the constant arising of, and so things are neither real nor unreal. They're just always coming up and going down. That's all. And that's all happening in nature. But nature's a cold iron ball without you. See. So the beauty of nature keeps people. People who are living a sattvic life or live in a a society that's got means and riches and so forth, they'll enjoy sunsets and mansions and houses and feasts and so forth and so on. Those will all get, there's all hairs in those ointments too. They'll all get interrupted, and over time, if nothing else. But we're getting to time later, and we're running out of time as we get to time. So the beauty of nature is a formidable opponent for people who are stuck in a sattvic kind of guna. Looking at the horrors of nature, they pretty much, at least they used to, take those off the TVs and things. See, the lion's about to pounce. Oh, let's cut that. You see, it's like, oh, we don't want to show death or killing or meat eating or blood or violence. Let's just take that out of the picture, and just say, oh, there's lions and antelopes out there. Oh, that's enough for us. We can live happily with that. But the horrors of nature never get shown, just the beauties of nature. So they'll have the lion chasing the antelope. Oh, that's pretty. But they cut. Wake them up, O wisdom mother, strip from them this Maya cover. You're going to have see things as they are here to get over the beauty of nature. Because you turn your back on the beauty of nature, turn back and it's horrible again. It changes faces. And so seeking control over the natural laws is very much connected then with what we were just talking about here. The powers that people get attracted to, obsession with powers. So they're trying to control the forces of nature, basically. And, I want to be one with nature. I think I was writing a God blog on that the other day. I want to be one with nature is one of the most naive statements I've ever heard in my life. If you knew what nature was and how it's constantly under the attack of death and decay, then you would not want to be one with nature. Doesn't it pretty much connect with the beauty of nature? I want to be one with nature because it's beautiful. But if you were at the edge of the earth or near the sun, the sunset would not be beautiful. You'd be fried to death in an instant. Try the Sahara Desert for a while. You're actually waiting for the sunset so that you can live and not die of thirst. So the very same things that please you and give you pleasure are those things that will give you pain next. And then people don't hold on to that little bit of memory. They don't hold on to it. I mean, that's the senses, right? Basically, you had something about eyes in this goes. Vishvasvat prabhatam yata rupam aksham pragrinatina vatam evam vivashvan yada vata basayat chakshanekaha sa nicha palabdis swarupahamatma Sanicha palabdis swarupahamatmam. Hasta Amalaka says, the eyes see, the ears hear, all due to the presence of the self. The sun becomes manifest due to that effulgence, which imparts the ability to see to the eyes. If not for it, darkness and ignorance would prevail at all times. Therefore, the self and I are one, the same, and free of delusion. So in his 13 verses, Hasta Amalaka Stotra is talking about Hasta Amalaka, the fruit in the palm, Hasta, hand. I see the truth as clear as you can see a fruit in the palm of your hand, Holy Mother said. But then I put it away, because the world It's not for the eyes of the worldly. There'll be problems there. So she doesn't just veil herself, because she wants to cause suffering. That's not it. She veils herself because you'll make a mess out of the truth if she reveals it to you too soon. So you graduate. Hastamalaka Stotram is powerful that way. It's called a stotram, like Nirvana Shatkam. I chanted from that earlier. Hastamalaka Stotram, Avatut Gyanamritam Stotram. I mean, they're rare, but you find them, they're just like, I just want to listen to that all day. That's why earbuds were invented, because of stotrams. Did I pass one up? I did, didn't I? Dalliance with the three gunas and brooding on the five elements. I passed up brooding on the five elements. So meditating on the five elements is different than brooding on them, as Father of Yoga wants you to do. Let's take water, let's take earth, let's take water, let's take fire, and trace them to their source. Then roll them all back up to each other. Man cannot reach enlightenment until he rolls up the whole world in a skin. Upanishads say. Earth, sky, everything, you roll it up in a big skin. See? So he has to know everything, all the tattvas. And basically what he wants to know is that they're all insentient and dreamlike, evanescent. They're not immutable, they're mutable. And once he knows that, then number one, he can renounce it all. Number two, he's fine with it all. As long as his or her karma goes on, see, prabdha karma. Then that's the Ashtaravaka Samhita saying that. They're living only by their prabdha karma, those souls. That's all. So that karma that's operative, they're only living by that. And Shankara's God blog-like story is the potter's wheel. The old ones, you used to push them like this with your foot on a pedal and they'd spin. So you had a blob of clay there and you'd shape it as your foot pumped, you see. And the beauty of that was that, your handmade pot was that any angularities was shown up by the spinning. And so, I'll trim that off a little. So you say, I got the perfect pot, and he walks away. That's the illumined soul. And what happens? The momentum of the wheel keeps the pot spinning. Shankara says brilliantly. That's prabdha karma. They're perfected, but they're still acting without action. They're in bodies without bodies. Until that momentum stops, he's a jivan mukta. Then if he never creates another pot again, he's a videha mukta, which is bodiless, deha. You see, videha would be bodiless. So I wanted to go back and catch that. I'm surprised nobody caught me on it, but brooding on the five senses, let's meditate on them, let's contemplate them, connect them. That's a better teaching than just saying, I'm going to give up brooding, which is a good start. I mean, they're brooding on them every day, aren't they, when it rains? They say, where's the sun? That's brooding on the elements, you see. We just went through that the last week here. So rain all the time, rain all the time. Finally, I just said to myself, that's a great thing. The Upanishads say that when rain falls, people look happy because they mean food. It means food in their stomachs, see. So let's just look at it that way. And as soon as I thought of it that way, yesterday was sunny. See, so really I'm the one that does that. It's my occult power. But I wouldn't do that if I didn't consciously strive for it, see, and tell others about it. See. It's raining. Yeah, let's all think sun, you see. Sure enough, it comes. And we did get to taking refuge in the physical world. Not a good idea. Take refuge in the Atman. Fascination with the beauty of nature we had. Seeking control over natural laws is where we ended up. And we were talking this, basically the occult powers, yes, connected, but when you talk about natural laws, you're talking about man's wanting to control nature. Good luck with that. You see, channel the forces of lightning and water, make dams and rivers, you know the routine. Pollute things, lose your sensitivity around them, forget the connections between the elements and the senses, all those things that are ruining the environment and, are just another one of the things that are in that Maya package of rebirth in bodies and worlds. Nature then holding a huge place in this. But if we knew the unmanifested side of nature, where the seeds were, we could not water the seeds. I mean, basically, that's one way of saying the soul freed is God. That same soul freed is God, because that same soul has come to know nature, not as a separate existence from itself, not as one with itself, but as inside itself. You see the beauty of it. It came out of you. You're never in nature. Nature's in you. And Vivekananda put that. You're never in Maya. Maya is in you. So get rid of it. So get rid of the idea that nature only has an external face and see the seeds that it came from. And that's why you're taking involution steps in any given lifetime. And this is why you're moving inward. The kingdoms of heaven are within you. What else would compel a soul to move other than outward? In egos, in bodies, trying to fulfill desires, and then coming, down to some rituals about it. It'd only take you as far as your ancestors. Religious ceremonials. We okay? Should I move it? It needs to be flipped once in a while, like a pancake. All right, we're almost, the penultimate one of this third cosmic is wrongly perceiving nature as God. I mean, pretty much we just talked about that, but we didn't bring the God word into it. So basically, they think that they haven't made the distinction between insentient things and the sentient thing, if you want, with a capital T. That. This and that. So in that case, nature, let's put aside for a moment that, so let's just say we don't know that nature came out of us, as most people don't. So we'll be one of them. So we're not thinking in terms that nature actually came out of the thought processes of the mind. And in that way then, now we're thinking nature is a separate existence, you see. And now we're going to worship it, you see, as a separate existence. And there you've got a lot of the indigenous religions of the world, fixated on nature. And the whole problem with image worship and so forth, idol worship, rather than making that connection and seeing that that's a manifestation of the divinity and deifying it. Deification would be Tantra's way of taking up things. And so not through it's through deification that you would do that. I'm trying to think of what my teacher said.
Renunciation isn't condemnation.
Yes, renunciation is not condemnation. So sometimes the schools will say that. You see, it's like the fire darting reformer schools again. But no, it's not condemnation. We're looking for deification. How to realize that came from the mind. The mind came from the soul, so it's all divine. You see. And we're not thinking that way. So we're trying to control the natural laws, not knowing that that's already the natural design of things. It's perfect the way it is. Leave it alone. Just realize it, that's all. And then you will be able to make that assumption or the right conclusion about nature being a manifestation of divinity. You can look at both its beauty and its horrors with an equal mind. Like death would be one of its horrors. But you should see that as a natural law of living in the body on earth, is death. Death is given the function in Holy Mother's realms of just taking transmigrating consciousness from one place to another. So death is not the end of things, it's a transitional force. And that's helping people get from one location to the other. Hopefully to a better location, which is then up to the soul to meditate on that, to again precognize where you're going. Let's see, it's Ramakrishna Loka for the lot of us. We're going there. See, that's where I want to go. And if I can't get to Brahman, merge, I'll go to Ramakrishna Loka. You see, but are they saying if I can't get to the Almighty Father, I'll get to heaven? Or are they, do they know that the heaven-aspiring senses are a great limitation that bring you back to earth again? Is that part of wisdom in there? Was it ever given to us? Did we ever hear it? Those of us who were at least even close to Christianity? How did Jesus describe that? And the same with other religions too, but and including Hinduism to a great extent. There's a lot of talk about rebirth with the ancestors and so forth, and a kind of attaining of a heaven. But the difference there was this non-dualism that came forth and declared itself, and the Dharmic teachings around bettering life in the worlds. Like how time and enlightenment works into the thing. We'll get to this next week. But how to get krama mukti going. How to stage by stage realize yourself by degrees and make spiritual progress in this world. Free, you'll only be able to free the nadis of this kind of rude ignorance. You'll only be able to do that if you clear those passageways in your mind. Clarity, khyati, real big in Buddhism, in yoga and Vedanta, that word. Clarifying everything in the mind. So that you know it to be as it is before you leave the body, basically. If you perceive nature as God, then pretty much you go to death, because that's what nature does. Birth, growth, disease, old age, decay, and death, they belong to nature, they don't belong to the Atman. And neither do bondage and liberation belong to the Atman. So you've got some very powerful principles there that aren't understood by the rest of the world, which they're thinking belong to the soul. But India says, no, they do not. The Atman is ever free, never bound. And so another problem with this is assigning God to nature and its powers. And then you'll be worshipping bolts of lightning, or fire ceremonies, or full moons, and things like that, you see. Let's all go dance under the full moon or something. Clothes optional kind of thing, see. Nature worshipping, basically. But where's the Lord? Where's my God? Where's reality? Where's non-duality? Where's truth? Where's consciousness with a capital C? Where's awareness? And where's intelligence? There's 6 questions right there for you to ask. Beyond nature. Because all of those are beyond nature, and nature has come out of them. We don't want to kick the dead horse, but we do want to reiterate. Let's look at kama, desire, number 4. Connected very much with desire for bodily satisfaction and with attachment to form, of course. So kama could be, again, sort of like nature, almost its own problem. Almost every religion of the world has said that desire is pretty much the root problem. And we have that on good authority from Holy Mother, that if you become, what should you ask for? A good God blog here. what should you ask for from God if you had one thing to ask for? And probably enlightenment wouldn't be on the list because you're never bound, never mind. But basically, the thing you would ask for is nirvasana. What's vasana mean? Desires. So nir means extinct. Ask for the extinction of your desires. So she said that. She could have chose so many things to ask for, but she knew if you did that, you'd be free. That's how binding desire is. So what does it say here? Desire for embodiment, desire for limited existence, desire for pleasure, desire for gain. A lot of these have been put already in, but this is pretty much under the direct auspice of that urge called kama. Desire for possessions, desire for fame, desire for power. Yeah, I was saying power was up there, and limited existence was listed. Embodiment was listed, but this is under that actual problem of kama. Kamam, krodam, moham is one of the beautiful lists in Sri Krishna's slokas about that. Kamam, krodam, moham, lobam. He goes on and on with these words, six problems, 6 passions, and so forth. So, if you could X those desires out and just live somehow, free of desire, just go thou, the free, from place to place, and help them out of darkness, Maya's veils, as Vivekananda said. If you only know the truth, the rest will hate and laugh at you. But pay no heed. Go thou, the free, from place to place, and help them out of darkness, Maya's veils, without the search for pleasure or fear of pain. Go beyond them both. See? Sannyasin thinks that way. Sannyasins are unique to the world religions. There are certainly luminaries and so forth, saints, and so forth we're familiar with, but sannyasins, boy, that's another cut somewhere that we didn't see being made in the West as we grew up, as we evolved, as it were. And went through those quick because they were easy, so it really put us on track to finish this chart, these 2 charts in one class. Karma would be the 5th then, and good, bad, and mixed probably would give you the best look at it. That is sanchita, what we talked about already, prabdha, the spinning wheel, the prabdha of an illumined soul. Of course, there's prabdha for unillumined souls too, that is going to create more karma, called agami, which is in the future. So these 3 kinds of karma are brought forward. I like to bring forward kriya mani karma too, a kind of uprising of unexpected spontaneous karmas that come. These are what we're calling nowadays, what is it, putting out fires? Something, they have an expression for that. Oh, I've got enough to worry about here just with what I've got on my daily schedule, but all of a sudden I'm having to put out these side fires, like a forest fire out there getting rid of the main blaze, and all of a sudden they're sprouting up all around him. Or the white beetles coming out of the woodwork, Ram Prasad sings in one of his songs. So I don't know where they come from. So the woodwork is his mind, and these things are coming up unexpectedly. So that's kriyamani karma. And basically, the English covers all 4 of those, good, bad, and mixed. Karma, akarma, vikarma. I think Krishna talks about it in the Gita that way. So the first one is identification with action and its effects. When the soul, is actionless. That's why I put these together. I want to make sure we kind of look at, presumed bondage and potential freedom, or the assumption of getting free. And we put those together with solid facts of truth in Vedanta. So there's identification with action and its effects, and there's a systematic accrual of karma. That's a big problem. If you knew how to stop karma from happening, and you knew how that was leading you through other lifetimes, other bodies, with your ancestors, because of attraction to things, then you would know how to stop it. I was just realizing when I stopped there that I didn't talk about the real connection between desire and Shastra Anuvartanam. I can just go back for a second. Desire for religious ceremonials, is all around these kinds of desires. Say, you don't just have to go to the priest class for this. You can go to religious people. And I would then go to conventional religious people. When the gates to heaven open, the gate to enlightenment closes. Where did we see that recently, right? On a God blog. So that's from the Upanishads saying, we followed the heaven-aspiring senses and we didn't like it. We saw it was limiting us and throwing us back with our ancestors. So the gates to enlightenment were closing when we were seeking heaven. A very powerful thought and very powerful truth. And it's connected here to people who are desiring all the things of the world. The good things would be the heavenly things, right? But they're trying to deny the negative things out of the picture. We don't want those. Let the poor have those, or whatever the way they're trying to get out of their negative karma. Because Swami Vivekananda said, the quicker your karma comes back at you, the more advanced you are spiritually. The slower it takes to come back, the less advanced you are spiritually. So people who are caught in this loop, Shastra Anuvartanam, inside of conventional religion, have very slow karma. Lifetimes slow karma. They could be kings and queens and rich people for ages and not find out their mistakes. And until, as we know, guillotine comes down or something happens. The people rebel, you see. It's written all over the face of history in all countries. Systematic accrual of karma. So if you're going to meditate on karma, then you would take that in. Lodging of karmic residue in the mind. The memory of those things sticking. So there's another God blog, remember that one. Snow does not stick on a wet road. It only sticks on a dry road. So if the mind's wet with worldliness, karma sticks there. If the mind's dry with knowledge, snow won't stick. Karma can come all at once. It just, melts. Or is that the other way around? It melts into the water on the road. So you want the mind wet with knowledge, and if it dries up in ignorance, then the snow sticks on it. So that's a good way of thinking about that. Keep the road of your mind wet with devotion, wet with knowledge, wet with meditation, and all the karmas then falling out of the sky, even if they be kriyamani karmas, will just melt there, and you won't have any snowbanks of ignorance anymore. These are all aspects of karma. Then formation of personality based on karma. That would be my segue here, so we'll save that for next week. This is how the 12 nidanas happen over 3 lifetimes. A lot of it has to do with the development of the ego here, or the personality. How I'm born, how I act, what I think, what I like, what I don't like. Samskaras, basically, in the human mind. Again, mixed good and negative samskaras in the mind. How a person can get formed in one lifetime in a certain society with a certain family, die and continue that same personality on and add to it, and then a 3rd lifetime again do that, until you have people that are just living grey little studies of life, to quote Vivekananda, mewing like cats in their corners, and doing nothing to help the world or themselves. So this is back to the conventional kind of way of going about things, and never trying to improve oneself by knowing the self. It really connects to all the rest of these: nature, body, desire. How the personality forms and how to ripen it. Sri Ramakrishna said, unripe ego and ripe ego. Apakva, hamkara. Ahamkara is ego. Apakva, unripened. How to ripen it. Pakva hamkara. We want to have that ego that's given itself away each lifetime to the Lord. So we're like kitten devotees. She just takes us and puts us. We just sit there and mew. She comes back, takes us, puts us somewhere else. We just sit there and mew. We have this unending faith in the mother cat, and divine mother cat, and lifetime to lifetime, then we're free. See, we're not suffering all of this. We're not caught in the cosmic bondages. We're here, Atman, free of bondage. The cosmic bondages can cover everything else, but we've got a clear view through them. And then death with unresolved karma. They're not leaving anything out here. See, basically, if you've got birth, growth, disease, old age, decay, and death as the 6 transformations, then your ego's getting dragged from place to place, right? It drags from place to place the soul. Thirst for life, forever quench. Drags from birth to death the soul. So this is what's going to happen to the soul who has unresolved karma. So you're going to want to use the 4 yogas to make sure your slate is clean. Yeah. When the bubbles of the mind rise, Advaita Gita says, the seer just looks at them rise, watches them dissolve back into consciousness, comes out of consciousness, goes back into consciousness. So if that process isn't happening that way, we'll use the 4 yogas to make it happen that way. I'll meditate on the residue of the karma that came from today. Watch it rise, watch it dissolve, not brood on it anymore. Basically is your path, you see. If you're enlightened but you have a tendency to slip back, which is the problem with Kama Mukti, then that's the on guard act you want to do. Watch things rise as phenomena, know they're phenomena, watch them melt back in. Those things that don't melt back in, it's your duty then to melt them yourself at the end of each day. In each meditation, anything that's left over in the mind, you wipe it out. None of it's real. So if you end up brooding on nature or brooding on something in nature, that's impeding that process. And you're then going to suffer resultant karma, residue of karma in the mind. The formation of more karma. We'll look at that with the Nidanas next week. But it's a very, very good teaching. Sobering, but very good teaching. Like Vivekananda is saying, there's no God in the universe. That God here is called karma. That God here is called karma. That's your doing. You're the God. That karma is yours, and that's what's doing everything. So here's the way you look at this. Here's the way you dissolve it, and make sure you do it before the end of your life. Better day to day. It's like, putting your taxes off. April 10th comes, and then the 12th. Is it time to get busy on them, my dear? Extension. No, that's another lifetime, you see. So basically, you want to get them done early. Rebirth to enjoy, suffer past karmas. Yeah, well, take the enjoyment, not the suffering, please. Sorry, can't do that. That's not in the cosmic scheme of things, you might have noticed. And also, cycles of birth and death and ignorance are, and again, my segue into the Nidanas, which we will leave for next week, but this is good. In an hour or so, second half, we were able to go through a very powerful chart. I hope people will look back on it, take certain things of it, meditate, contemplate them. Things that particularly pertain to you or grabbed you, that's a good sign that I really need to understand that deeper, because knowledge destroys fear and ignorance. And ignorance increases those things. So rather than brooding out of fear and ignorance, you practice out of knowledge to dissolve those bubbles and pass your time contentedly and be free. Om Sato Ma Sadgamoya Tamaso Ma Joy Tir Gamoya Mrichor Ma Amritam Gamaya Abhira Abhira Mayeti Rudrayate Dakshinamukam Tenamam Pahinicham Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. O Lord, take us from lower truth to higher truth. From lower knowledge to higher knowledge. From the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.